your brain, you're in the nerds domain. Come on in, it's about to begin.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerds Domain podcast. This time, it's our year in review. I'm Matt.
I'm Shirley.
I'm John.
And I'm Justin.
And welcome to the year in review. We're going to start with Jesse. We're going to start with Jesse doing books.
All right. Well, I haven't read a lot this year. As a matter of fact, only 2 books, and one of which was horrible, so I won't talk about that. The other one is a short story by H.P. Lovecraft called The Beast in the Cave. Technically, I read this a long time ago, but I reread it this year, so it counts. It's currently in the anthology The Road to Madness.
And this one's by H.P. Lovecraft?
It is, yes. Everything in there is by H.P. Lovecraft himself. And from what I understand, it was one of the first stories he wrote.
Okay. And I would bet that it's going to be available in most of his anthology stuff.
It is. I think you can get it for free online. Most of his actual works are non-copy protected.
Fallen into public
That's it. Domain. That's it. I'm not too sure if he...
everything's copywritten when you write it. It has to be to publish it. But because it's so old, it falls into public domain.
Actually, Lovecraft intended for it to always be public domain.
That's why I thought so, too. That's why everybody's able to use his mythology.
Yeah, because of how many writers he collaborated with to create the mythology, it's been in public domain forever.
Oh, right on. Okay.
There you go.
So, no other books, Jesse?
No other books. It's a great little short story. It's like 3 pages. There's no reason not to read it, especially if you grew up around Mammoth Cave.
Oh, right. I didn't think about that. Right on. Okay. Shirley, do you have a couple of books?
What did I read this year?
Because you took copious amounts of notes and actually have... Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I didn't read very much this year. I think... right now I'm reading... oh my gosh. Everything just went out of my head.
Color World?
Huh?
Color World?
Yeah. Color World by Rachel. And I can't remember her last name.
Rachel Kelly.
Rachel Kelly. And I guess that's going to be my favorite right now. The protagonist, is that the hero of the story?
Yes.
Protagonist. I'm learning new verbiage. This is 2015, so I'm learning new words. Protagonist. The protagonist of the story is a heroine, and she's a very wounded heroine. So it's I'm on the 7th chapter. They're long chapters, so it's going pretty good. And I'll let you guys. I'll do a review of it when I'm done. So
eventually.
Right now, that's my favorite book.
Yeah,
Color World. By Rachel Kelly.
We met the author at AwesomeCon.
Yeah.
And her husband, and they've been in pretty regular contact with us.
They were awesome.
They were pretty awesome. That was the most awesome part about AwesomeCon.
I know, right?
And that Cuban sandwich I had. That was pretty awesome.
Oh, and I'm rereading The Hobbit. That's always good. So.
Are you reading Wheel of Time?
No, I've taken a sabbatical from Wheel of Time.
Good.
Because this is our third. Because
I got 2 or 3 chapters into the 5th book, and I'm like, okay.
Well, this is our 3rd year in review, and this will be the 3rd time we mentioned Wheel of Time. I just want to make sure we touch base on it.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this was our first one. So, John, did you read any books this year?
Well, read is a kind of
difficult term.
Yeah. I didn't get to read a whole lot, but I did get to listen to audiobooks, so I think that counts.
Right on.
Yeah, no, I listened to the entire Song of Ice and Fire, or Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, all of those this year, and finally got around to World War Z.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What would you think about that one?
I liked World War Z a lot, and I watched it, or I read it, listened to it in anticipation of the film.
Oh, you should have watched the movie first.
Do what?
You should have watched the movie first.
Well, thanks to the timing and the fact that I don't ever actually get to go to the theater, you warned me about that. So I sat down to watch World War Z expecting a zombie apocalypse movie and enjoyed the book on its own accord. The book was freaking awesome. I love the way it was set up, and I really wish they had done mockumentary style for the film as well, but they didn't. So whatever.
If they'd have just, you remember in the movie when they were just, the soldiers were sitting around asking about how their hometowns were?
Yeah.
If they'd have just mentioned, well, what about Yonkers? I mean, just throw that in there.
Oh, it totally would have worked with Brad Pitt doing a interview style, and then integrated into the action as the soldiers were talking, and just fade in the action, but he's still there, kind of like Star Trek and the holodeck stuff,
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with Ken Burns?
Vaguely.
I think a documentary, Ken Burns style documentary, would be really.
But it
amazing.
still could have totally had the action scenes.
Oh yeah.
Tickets. It would have been great. So whatever. The movie's fine. The book is excellent in its own right. So you just need to know going in that you're not going to get the same experience from both media.
Fair enough.
And you're all caught up on Game of Thrones now, right?
I am. I'm waiting with bated breath, just like everybody else, for the next
Welcome
book.
to the club. Yeah.
Well, good. You've got 13 or 14 months, I'm sure.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
Oh, he's got to speed up. There's way too much more money at stake now because
they have specifically stated that HBO is going to go off book.
Yeah.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
No.
He's giving them a general outline of what he intended to do, and then the writers of the series on HBO are free to do, what they want. So,
it's good because they got picked up and now he's making lots of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that he wasn't, well-to-do to begin with, but
for a writer, he was doing all right. Now he's doing better.
Yeah. Yep. My books this year, I reread or read again or triple read or something. Empyrean. It's actually a 2-book. It's 2 books in one larger book. It's called the first book is called The Dome, and the second book is called The Siege. But it's a scientific, or it's a sci-fi story about this illegal colony and what happened there, and it's really, really good. It's written by Stephen Lawhead, who wrote a lot of fantasy stuff, and then for some reason this sci-fi book, or I guess these 2 sci-fi books. But I have read the first book a couple of times. It's a little slow and a little dry, but it's really interesting. It just takes a while to get there. The second book is a little rougher. I think it's because you get to the point at the end of the first book, towards the end of the first book, where you feel like the story could wrap up and everything will be, and they all live up happily ever after. But then he continues that book, and you end up at the end of that one going, oh, well, there's more then. And now we get to go see it, I guess. It's not bad. It's just long. And it's 2 very thick novels. They're probably 500 pages apiece in one supersized chunk of book.
You could kill somebody with that book.
Yeah, you really could kill somebody with that book. It's so old that I think I have a 4th edition island from Magic the Gathering in it that got put in there when 4th edition came out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's old.
And then Letters to Lovecraft is an anthology I picked up from, Helgrain Press. They sent that to us to review. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of weird and creepy stories that are well written. Each of them has its own author, so it has a very different feel to it. I'm really enjoying it. I just need to read more and get back into that. So, Johnny, why don't we talk about podcasts you really enjoyed?
Podcasts that I really enjoyed. Well, my first one is I'm going to give to Major Spoilers, Critical Hit podcast. I love role-playing games and D&D especially. And then what Critical Hit is an actual play of D&D, 4th edition. But they take some time out to discuss other things via fan letters. And they just put together a really good show. Rodrigo tells a great story, and the players are involved and really try to make a great product, and they succeed. So that is far and away my favorite podcast.
Have they picked back up, or are they still on hiatus?
They're in between seasons, if that's what you mean.
Right.
Yeah, they just wrapped up their fourth season of story, and they are doing their in between stuff to take a break and unwind. And because of holidays being where they are, fill in some gaps. They are doing their canned 5th edition adventure right now. And I'm drawing a blank on where the story comes from. The starter set is what they're playing through. I forget what that's called, but the $20 D&D 5th edition starter set, they're playing through that adventure, but they are not using the provided character sheets. Rob, who's running the game, made individual characters.
Cool.
So you get to see a little more than the basic D&D 5th edition on that show.
Have they mentioned if they're going back to the old story, or are they done with that?
There was Rodrigo did make a comment that they are not done with the 4th edition campaign, but they have not said specifically what's going to happen.
Okay.
I won't go into spoilers, but there's a lot of upheaval, and it's a possibility that some of the original characters won't be returning, but they have not specifically said how that will work out. So,
right on.
A couple more weeks.
Yeah, I'm still in. I just got to the Drow City because they spent a lot of time getting to the Drow City.
Yes, they did.
They spent a whole episode sitting outside a well arguing about whether they should jump in a well.
Right. And then somebody jumped in a well, and they spent another hour arguing whether that was a good idea.
Yep.
So there are some downer episodes, some ones that drag on.
Yeah, but it seems like something that would actually happen naturally in a game.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
And it is.
You guys do it to me all the time. I mean, we had the Flood Expedition, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord. What was your other podcast?
Oh, the other one that I would really like to shout out to is NPC Cast. They do a lot. They're gaming related as well. It's sort of my thing right now. But they talk about all aspects of gaming, including board games, role-playing games, card games, anything you can imagine you could find on their podcast. But specifically, they do what they call campaign crucibles, where each of their 3 hosts brings a word to the table, and they have to devise a campaign using those 3 words. So, for example, one time they came together and did dinosaurs, World War II, and propaganda. And they came up with a world where dinosaurs never went extinct, and they were living out World War II, or World War One. I don't remember, but one of the World Wars. And they were talking about how the T-Rexes were on one side and this dinosaur was on that side, and how they would play. And it's just a really fun concept. They did an entire month of it, which means 4 episodes in a row, where they had special guests, and they got some really good stories out of it. And that's a lot of fun to just kind of brainstorm and see what you might come up with on your own.
Oh yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend NPC Cast as well.
I found 2 podcasts this year, one of them which was brand new, and the other one that had been around just a little bit of time, that I really enjoyed. The Obsessive Viewer, our friends Matt, Mike, and Tiny over at Obsessive Viewer, we met them at Indie PopCon. They had a booth there, and gotten to know them. We've had Matt and Tiny on the podcast to talk about Jurassic Park. And I really enjoy their podcast. They did a Summer of Sandler, where they watched all of Adam Sandler's movies and split them up by time frame, and they talked about all of his movies in over, I want to say, 4 episodes, and how great and or terrible they were. That was a lot of fun, and they're exactly what they say they are. They do a year in review, where last year they talked about all of the stuff they watched, and the numbers of movies they watched was just staggering. Like 157 movies from one of the guys. I was just blown my mind, or blew my mind, I guess. Yeah. So that was a really good one. I really like the guys on it. I just found it this year, and I have to say it's one of the better finds I got this year. The other one is called the Startup Podcast. A guy from This American Life has left This American Life and is starting his own podcasting company. And this is kind of the look at how he's doing it. I know I've mentioned it before, and I'm looking forward to whatever he puts out, and I'm definitely going to support it. I don't know if I'll listen to it a ton because it's a storytelling thing, and while I enjoy that to a point, I also like people talking about nerdy things that I enjoy, and that's not necessarily where he's going to be at. So the Startup Podcast, though, is walking through each step of him doing this process and starting a business and pitching it and getting backers, and it's a look at business behind the scenes before it's, big and huge and there's all these myths and legends behind it. So I'm really enjoying as he goes through and he releases these. He's on, I want to say, episode 8 or 9. So he's not releasing them every week, I don't think, but he is releasing them on a mostly a regular schedule. And it's really, really worth picking up if you're interested in business or the background of the behind the scenes is the word. Behind the scenes of the podcasting stuff. So check that out if you can. Jesse, do you have...
I have a couple of podcasts. The first one I've talked about before, it's the Angry Chicken Podcast. It's about the Hearthstone app and game, which is a card game based on World of Warcraft. The podcasters really go into detail on strategy, what kind of cards to pick, what cards are best for what situations. Because of them, I've started playing ranked play. I'm looking at possibly joining tournaments.
Oh, wow.
I love the idea of playing a tournament from my house, not having to commute. But yeah, they're a blast. They're fun to listen to. It's a Frog Pants production, so...
It is?
It is.
Oh, right on.
So, yeah, it's good quality.
So is that Dills?
It is. Yeah, it's him.
Okay.
And I feel bad because I don't know who the other two people are. But it's 2 other people.
Right on.
The other podcast is one called The Disney Story Origins. And
what, really?
I haven't written a review about it yet or talked about it. I really like it, but the guy does not update very often at all. No regularity to it whatsoever. But he goes into depth on one Disney story, and then he pulls the origin of it, and he compares the two.
Okay.
They typically run an hour and a half. He just recently did an Aladdin episode, which Aladdin was my favorite Disney movie. He did 3 hour-and-a-half episodes comparing it to the original story. He did a supplement on Shahrazad. That was an hour and a half. And then he did a 2-hour supplement on Jinn and their history. So when I say he goes into depth, I mean he really goes into depth.
Right on. Yeah, that's cool. It looks like they only have like 12 episodes out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. When you said this, I kind of laughed, but now that you've said it, I'm subscribing.
It really did good. I was uncertain when I started. I don't even know why I picked it, because I'm not a huge Disney fan. But I do. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, it looks like he's monthly or every other month-ish, sort of.
Occasionally. Yeah, he even said year in review that it's whenever he feels like it. And he's sorry about it, but it's not going to change.
Hey, at least he's honest about it and upfront.
Yeah.
Right on. Shirley, you have a couple of podcasts?
Yeah, actually, feeding my Ingress addiction, I found Portal Side Chat this year, hosted by Frank and Shannon. They're a newer podcast, and it's everything Ingress. They started with just giving hints and tips for new players, but they've kind of mixed that up now. They're talking about all the different news that comes out from Niantic, which is the quote-unquote team or corporation that created Ingress, along with Google. They talk a lot about the game, different background stories in the game, tips and tricks on how to play the game, and they're starting to get into what supplements the game. Like Google Hangouts is a huge contributor to the Ingress community, so they talk about some of the Hangouts. They talk about different resistance and enlightened factions in the different parts of the country, and they're starting to have guest speakers on that have to do with that. So Portal Site Chat, if you're an Ingress player, which I definitely recommend Resistance to become a Ingress player, and check them out. My second one is a oldie but goodie. It's the Dystopic Boys with Wendell and Niles. I haven't listened to their 2 most recent episodes as I've been too busy out ingressing. So, but I've been keeping up with them. They're up to 22 episodes now, I think.
Yeah, give or take.
And yeah, those are my 2. So anything dystopian, if you're into that type of genre, I guess it's genre.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Give them a listen.
Are they still updating regularly, or?
No, they're another.
The last one they had was in October.
They're another podcast.
Pretty busy.
Yeah, they're another podcast that's intermediary.
Yeah.
And
intermittent.
That's not the right word.
Intermittent.
Intermittent. There you go. Wow, I'm not tired at all. They're an intermittent update podcast, but when they put episodes out, they're really good. I wish they would just do it more regularly.
Yeah, it's really good.
One of them's a pilot, and the other one's a sound technician, so their sound is really, really good. And they have really good content too. So it's definitely, if you like dystopic stuff, it's something to listen to. I quit listening only because they kept covering movies I hadn't seen yet. Like they did Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and we just finally watched that. So I didn't want to be spoiled. Not their fault. That's my fault. They also did Ender's Game, and I haven't watched that yet either. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't read the book, so reading the book and not having read the book or watched the movie, I didn't want to be spoiled at all.
Yeah, I would definitely watch the movie first.
But they also do a lot of like older dystopian movies. Like, I'm gonna pull this one out of the air. I think it's Cherry 2000 or something like that. So they give you an overall view of what the older dystopian movies are as well.
They typically look at what's coming out, and if there's a new one that's coming out soon, they'll do that, and then they pull an old one off of the list. If there's not a new one, they pull 2 off of their list.
Yeah.
They've done some really good older stuff. I think they did Planet of the Apes, didn't they?
I
could be wrong.
Not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, they're a solid podcast. What were you gonna say, Jesse?
They're the sole reason I wound up watching Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine I missed a Roddy Piper movie.
Right on. And then John. No, we did you. Jesse podcast. We did everybody. Hey, good deal. I'm totally on top of keeping track of where we're at. Let's go into games, and we'll start with John. Yes.
Okay.
Playing musical chairs or something.
Okay. My favorite game of the year, 2014, is an older one, but I just got my hands on it at Gen Con.
Is it Shooting Ladders?
It is not. It is Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Right on, yeah.
I've talked about it a lot. We've all got our opinions of it. I've yet to play a bad game, but I've only gotten to play 3 games. So,
stop now. You're 3 for 3.
Right? It's a perfect game, and I can put it away and everything. Yeah. No, it's
well, great. And you may never hit the bad game, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
And I think even the bad games are not terrible. They're a little disappointing.
Sure. Yeah.
They're definitely not bad like some of the other stuff we played.
Yeah.
So
the only bad game I had was a short one. So.
Right. Yeah. So the great thing about it is scenarios. There's 50 scenarios in the base book.
That sounds right.
So it's got massive replay value, and then even playing with different people increases the replay value because they're going to play the game differently, and so you have the scenarios and your fellow players to all change things up and make it different each time.
Well, and you build the house differently each time too.
And you build the house differently. That is a very innovative saying the house is all tiles, and you just build the house as you explore it. So it's it's very fun in that way. And then, like I said, I was lucky enough to get a copy because back in August they were still rather expensive online. Wizards had not printed another run yet since the one earlier in the year had been destroyed by moisture in the factory. So I got it for relatively cheap, so that was fun as well. And then the other game that I'm actually just now playing in the last, this is the first week of January when we're recording. But I found a website called Tavern Keeper that runs play-by-post games on it. And through that website, I've actually started playing my first game of Fate, the role-playing game.
Right on.
Yeah, we are playing immortal magic users who are exploring the urban fantasy world that the game master has created. Like I said, we've just gotten started, so nothing really super fun has happened, but I like my character, I like the way the website works, and I love Fate Core and its very simple but robust rules setting. You can do a lot to manipulate the rules to give it the feel that you want to have.
Yeah.
So, like, our characters, in the base game, magic doesn't exist, but if you want to, you can make it as simple as I roll the dice and my successes mean I cast a spell, and that's that. But our narrator has written up a whole new system where magic drains our health, so casting spells is a little dangerous. But that's our weapons against the supernatural of casting spells. So it's fun. It's got a lot of options and a lot of kick if you're in RPGs. If you don't like the super dense rules, like you might find what you're looking for in Fate.
Yeah, I've played play by post before, and I'm just so impatient for that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But if you've got the patience, I think there's a lot of good storytelling that goes on by people that, like you, Johnny, that can't make a regular game either from location or just time or whatever. And I think there's a lot of good stuff. I played a Mutants and Masterminds play by post, and I love that character. Wish I could bring him back. I just haven't had a chance to do that, so I don't have the patience for that long game, because some games last 6-8 months easily.
How active is the website? I mean, do they post every day, a couple times every day?
We're intermittent. The website, like, you can set on the web when you run a game, you can set on the website what you intend people to post. My narrator has a 2 per day request on there, but it's not mandatory. Like with New Year's, we got distracted and we haven't posted we didn't post on New Year's Day or the day after. So, but it depends on your group. You can tell your group what you expect and they'll, it's fine. But it's a way to find a group. Tavern Keeper lets you find a group and then you guys talk about your own expectations. So it's really up to the people participating.
Is it good at, does it send you notifications to email or anything when it updates?
Yes. Every time they have, let me just bring up the website so I can just talk about it. They have settings. You have discussion section, and every time somebody posts there, I get an email. There's also a wiki section, so the game master can set up a wiki, and that is where our narrator has described all of the rules and the various interesting parts of the world. There's a character section that does not notify you when somebody makes an adjustment to their characters, but it does display your character sheet, your character picture, all your stats, and then you have notes you can pass back and forth in private to the game master, narrator, whatever you would call them. So there's a private communication channel there. There's a journal channel, a stats and a biography under the characters. There's a role play section which notifies you every time. Yeah, and then there's just the main
So this is
dashboard.
This is more robust than just a regular forum play-by-post.
Oh yes, yeah. This was
Okay.
actually kickstarted. A
Oh,
while
okay.
ago. And they were successful, but they've since run into issues with scheduling and whatnot, and they've made it open source, and you can sign on as a helper if you know programming, and all kinds of stuff. So it's more than just a forum, but that's the base of it. I mean, there's a dice roller. You do all your dice rolling on the website, so you can't cheat. It posts for you when you roll the dice, and so it's good stuff.
Cool. Well, that sounds good. I'm gonna check out the website. What was the website again?
Tavernkeeper.com with a hyphen between tavern and keeper.
Yeah, because that's something I'm not sure I'm interested in the long-term playing, but it's a good way to organize it. You could play real time and still do your downtime stuff there at least.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to just get into. We used to do vampires, Matt and I, and it's very similar to that. So you could have your monthly or whatever game where you all get together face-to-face, and then provide a space for people to role play in between those times. That's exactly what this kind of website is, or what they're intended to do.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can play only on their site or through Google Hangouts or face-to-face, and then use their site for however you need to use it.
That's cool. I like that a lot. Cool. Shirley, do you have a couple of games?
Yeah, I do. First, the one that the one that's going to be briefest will be. I have a few games. I mean, this year we've played a lot of different. We got a lot of different new games, and I've been exposed to some new the new role playing. We've done Call of Cthulhu, and I want to give a shout out to that game because I really love the story. I really love the role play between the players. So that's kind of my short. My board game, because there's so many different genres, would be Lords of Waterdeep. I really love the competitiveness of the game, and they have like only one little dot with a purple on it or something like that.
Yeah.
And everybody has to try to get that purple.
Yeah.
But
and we got the expansion to that one this year. The Scoundrels of Skullport.
Scoundrels, and there's a second.
No, that's the one expansion with two expansions within it.
Okay, it's the
Undermountain
Skullport and Undermountain.
Yeah.
So.
But you could add either one of those. Just play with Undermountain, just play with Skullport, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can play with both. We've done both. I've played with Undermountain by itself because I have it on the app. But I like playing with both. I really like the corruption aspect of Scoundrels.
I don't like it. It drives me nuts. I mean, I love that there's other options out there so you can get more resources because it does add. I can't remember the color that's limited on the main board, but at Scoundrels it does add that more of the limited resource from the main board. But you have to take those skulls, and by the end of the game, if you're not paying attention, you have as many negative points as you have positive points, so you're kind of sitting around zero.
Yeah.
The game that I have been hooked on since November, I'm going to bring it up again. It's Ingress. You guys are going to get tired of hearing me talk about this.
Too late.
It's the global life augmentation virtual reality portal. I would say it's kind of like geocaching, except you go out and visit real historical or points of interest within your community. portals, and you have to get up off your couch and go out, and it makes you move around. And I think I have seen more of Indianapolis and the surrounding cities in the last 2 months than I have living here since I came to Indy and a long time ago. But Ingress is my top one that I'm still playing, and I'll probably go out and take down some frogs tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And drag Matt along with me.
Yeah. 2 games that I really enjoyed this year. The first one is a game that we backed on Kickstarter. We had them on our Kickstarter podcast. We met them at HoosierCon this year, and it's action-based games made Heroes Wanted. It's a superhero game. It's completely a board game, but you build your character uniquely each time. You build the villain uniquely each time, and currently there are 4 scenarios out, each with its own board. They all play very differently. Each scenario has its own very specific uniqueness to it. It's mostly fast-paced. It can bog down when you get started. It's not complicated in the rules. It's just a little outside of the norm. There's not like you roll a dice and you move, or you do these things every round. It's you do this one thing and move on. And getting used to that shorter aspect of what you're doing each time takes a little bit. But I really like the game. I backed the Kickstarter. I got both of the expansions that they put out. The one expansion just added more cards and it's really good. And the other expansion we haven't played yet because you need a full table. It's fully cooperative, and you play specific heroes from the storyline that fight a specific villain from the storyline. And these heroes are more robust. There's more stuff they can do. But the villains, on the flip side, are very, very much more robust and much more dangerous. And instead of where you might end up with a weird combination like Lightning Mama when you build your villain the first time, these are built to do specific things, these villains, and they do it well. So it's kind of like ramping the game up, but changing it completely as well. I really like the game. I like it enough that like they have a comic book that ties into it that I really am enjoying reading. The first issue was released, but you could get it before that. And the second issue comes out in February. And it'll be a 6-issue miniseries, and I'm really enjoying those as well. So Heroes Wanted is fantastic. The other game that I've got this year that I haven't technically played, it's a role-playing game that we got from Gen Con called The Void. It is a Call of Cthulhu space game. Basically, it suggests that, and it doesn't outright say it, but it very heavily suggests that there's a comet that has everything that is Cthulhu-based in it, and when it comes close to Earth, that's when all the weird stuff starts happening. And this game is set in the future where you can travel between planets, and there are colonies on each planet, and you play kind of like super secret special agents to fight against the Cthulhu mythos. The system is very is simplified, but still robust enough to have fun with it. It's a quick moving game. It's a quick combat game, and I like both of those, but I really, really like the storyline that it presents to you. And it's just about weird stuff popping up, and, we settled, on the Titan, the moon, and didn't know that there was something sleeping beneath the ice, because, who would ever know that? Because we didn't know these things existed, and they're just now awakening because the comet's closer. So it's good. There's supposed to be expansions to it. It was a new game from the company whose name I can't think of. They make Cthulhu Tech. But it's a really solid game, and I really, really enjoyed reading through the book, and I'm looking forward to more stuff from them. Jesse, you have any games?
I do. I have a couple. The first is a computer game called The Sims 4.
Oh,
As I've liked all the previous Sims, I'm not overly surprised that I like The Sims 4, but the detail they went into character creation, you can literally make absolutely anybody you could think of. I mean, if you got a picture of a person, you can make the sim of them in about 10
really?
minutes. Yeah. It's never been easier to make people.
Huh. Okay. Is the gameplay that much different?
The gameplay, it changed a lot from Sims 3. It kind of went back to Sims 2-ish. You don't have control of the entire neighborhood anymore. You're broken down into small blocks, which I like.
Okay.
I didn't like the whole wander around everywhere you want to go sort of a situation. It was really easy to get lost before. The only thing about the Sim 4 is I don't like is you can't, as an artist, you can't do a self-portrait, so you can't have pictures of yourself up on the wall when your little Sim guy dies.
Oh.
The other game, I just recently got a PlayStation Vita, and everybody suggested I should get a game called Persona 4 Golden. Now, I used to like games like Final Fantasy, but I haven't really played a lot of Japanese playing games in a while, and this game absolutely floored me with how good it was. I've never felt more attached to characters before in my life. It really... It has so much character development that it's crazy.
Right on.
The gameplay itself's interesting, but it's definitely secondary to the story. And I believe they have a cartoon about it somewhere. I haven't actually watched it. I don't watch a lot of the Japanese cartoons that much. But if you do and you don't have a Vita, I suggest you watch it because it has to be at least as decent as the game.
Okay. So this is a Final Fantasy style RPG.
Yeah. It's set in modern times, and the hero is a high school student who just recently moved into town, and through a strange event found out that he can go into his TV. And when he does, it's kind of it's Japanese role-playing game storyline craziness. But like I said, it basically just comes down to character development. The characters they have. I put 80 hours into the game and it didn't feel like it. It's
right on.
Definitely one of the longest games I've played outside of an online role-playing game.
Or Fallout.
Oh, yeah, Fallout. Fallout doesn't count. Fallout's always special.
Right on. Okay. Shirley, why don't you start us on apps?
Apps.
Go ahead. Anytime now. You have them written down, don't you? No?
No, I didn't write the apps down. So, Zello and Google Hangouts.
That's it.
Since I started,
so Zello's a thing? I thought you were just saying Trello wrong.
No, Zello.
No, Zello is actually Zello is a walkie-talkie app.
Oh.
They use it a lot in Ingress, so it's easy to be at one portal, across the city, and you're going to throw a link, and most of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but it helps you coordinate with other people in the game, but it is also great at the grocery store, so I can call Matt and say, hey, what did I forget?
It's hypothetically great at the grocery store. If you can't hear it, it does you no good.
Right.
So it turned your phone into a walkie-talkie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just call?
What?
I've never used the app before. I mean, I'm.
This is the same question I had. Surprisingly,
no, I don't like if I'm going to call you for a 2-second, hey, do you need something from the grocery store? Yeah, pick up some milk. I'm not going to find your number, dial your number, call wait for it to ring.
The newest update, Siri's kind of terrible.
Oh,
wait for it to ring, wait for you to pick up, then possibly not even get a hold of you.
It cuts all the...
You run into that with Zello, too, because it depends on how the other person has their notifications set up. But, if you're expecting to talk to somebody and that person's expecting to talk to you, you have your notifications set right. So, it's a walkie-talkie.
It speeds up communication, especially in groups. So if you, me, Johnny, and Shirley were all doing something, I don't know, Ingress-like, and we needed to continue to keep the communication open without having our phones dialed into a phone number all the whole time, you can do it that way.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I didn't think there was any reason to use it either, but it's useful. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so basically, the push-to-talk fad from a decade ago died, and now it's an app. Right?
This
Yes.
is true. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I was never a fan of push-to-talk, but I have to agree that occasionally it might be handy. So,
Yeah.
I
love it.
I honestly think it's used exclusively by people on Ingress.
Well, no. There's a lot of other different communities. I didn't find it through Ingress. I actually found it through my son, and he is in a mini trucking group. So, and that group and several of his friends in a different group use the app for something totally different. And he told me about it. I downloaded it, and we were talking back and forth for a little bit, and then I met up for the first time with the group that I Ingress with, and they're like, "Oh, you have Zello?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, that's their main communication when they go out on operations.
If we were going to a con or something and we could have earbuds in and not be completely distracted, It would be great for that kind of stuff, because you can send a quick, like, "Hey, I'm on aisle 16. Instead of sending a text, waiting for it to get there, waiting for the other person's phone to download it, then getting to aisle 16 and realizing, I've already moved on to aisle 18. Haha.
It's definitely an earbud app, as well as I think Ingress is. But I think to be able for it to work efficiently, the other person would need to have their earbud in so that they could hear the notification come in.
Yeah. What's your other app? Google Hangouts?
Google Hangouts. It's the I don't even know what to call it. I can't remember the word, but it's actually the supplement to Ingress. The main thing that I use Google Hangouts for is there's a ton of communities and a ton of Hangouts for Ingress and the different regions of the city. So I'm able to talk with the Ingress community that I play with through Hangouts, and we put operations together, and so it's a constant, like, minute to minute social media communication.
It's more than just the chat stuff, though, because you can do just chats in it. You can do video chats.
Yeah.
A lot of people play role playing games over Google Hangout. It's just this is the app form, and for group communication, I think it's usable. I think it becomes a little unwieldy as people just post stuff that doesn't matter.
Because today was our first Saturday for us in Ingress, and this is my first hosting of the event, and I was actually able to coordinate the different teams and the actual attendees for the event through the Google Hangouts. So I actually had 2 Google Hangouts going for the event, the attendees, and then the cleanup crew that I needed, and that helped me coordinate it. But the only downside is that you have to be a Google Plus user or have a Gmail account, and then you can be added to the Google Hangout.
Jesse, you're already a Google Plus member.
Most of the Ingress community, because it's through Niantic and Google, are Google users. So I think there, out of the 30 people that replied yes, there were only 2 people on the attendee list that actually didn't use their G Plus account.
Yeah.
So it came in very handy.
Johnny, what kind of apps do you have?
Well, I haven't actually had a reason to use it yet, but I was just turned on to the Masterwork tools for Pathfinder. It's taken the Pathfinder role-playing game, and it's condensed all the books into a single app. So that's been really fun to look at and see all the rules. Unfortunately, I don't have never played Pathfinder, and I don't actually have a reason to have the app. But it's really cool having every book that's been published so far for Pathfinder, as far as like character creation and creating, DMing a game. It doesn't have the adventures, but it has all the tools you would need to create and run a game, or all the books you would need to create and run a game handy. So you can just open the app up and do what you need to do. So that's been fun, but again, not very practical. I'll probably the next one I'm probably going to steal from Matt is Trello.
Oh, you're a jerk.
Yeah, I'm going to do it because, I mean, maybe this can just bridge into your discussion about it as well. But, you know, I have to admit, when Matt first brought up Trello, I was like, okay, here's just another thing that is going to get, you know, it's going to be notifying me about things, and I'm not really going to care. But it has become a very useful organization tool, specifically since someone showed us how to manage a grocery list via Trello. My wife and I have been able to are able to amend a list of items that we want from the grocery store. You write up the individual cards for things you might want and slide it over into the buy list. And when I've bought them, I just slide them over into the other, you know, back into the other list. And it's, you know, it's just very handy, and she can see what I've checked off, and I can see what she's adding to my list as I go, and I don't have to reference a text message and then get a second and a third text message from her.
And miss the one thing in the middle of the second text message that came after you left the store.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's and then it sends me a notification right to the top of my phone that, hey, something has changed on Trello. You know, so it's you know, it's really good stuff as far as organizing goes. Once you figure out how you can use it for yourself,
it does. I mean, it's completely usable. It's just wrapping your head around how to use it and how to utilize it can be a little iffy sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically just making a spreadsheet with point and click and move boxes. You know, so if you're used to using a spreadsheet, this, you know, it's very similar. Maybe not with the calculation stuff. I guess that's one thing that's different, but.
Yeah, definitely. This also has ability for attachments and stuff like that too. So there's what you're saying is right. If you're used to doing that and wish there was more usability in a spreadsheet in ways of attachments and checklists, that's all there too.
Yeah, and I love it because you know, just like Johnny, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get more notifications, and this is how Matt's going to.
I'm glad you both support me so much.
You have to tell us on it, dude. It took a while. Yeah. You did it, so.
But the thing is, I started using it one to help me with my processes at work. I create a board that's one of the processes, and then I go down and list the steps of that process and you know, what all the details entails. But it also has been helping me with family activities. We did right before Halloween, our family did a thing, and I created a card for that family activity, which was like pumpkin carving or something like that. But we did crafts, so I was able to go out on Pinterest and all different sites, go find the crafts that we wanted to do, take those links and actually put them in the card, as well as do like 2 or 3 checklists for, you know, what food are we having, and checking that off when we were at the store. What kind of necessities did we need for the crafts? That checklist was in there. So that helped me organize that. And going back to the event that I just did, it helped me organize all the different aspects from, you know, pre-event activities to, you know, closing activities and what we were doing at the event via checklists and the attachments. And I think it came very in handy when I needed to share links for the event page, or any links, you know, even the links in the family activities. I shared with my sister, because I was like, hey, take a look at this. I could just go onto the Trello board, go to that card, copy and paste the link, and it was right there, instead of me having to search through an email or going online and searching for it.
Yeah, I'm going to take over, Johnny, and slide into my apps if you don't mind.
Not at all.
But Trello is one of mine. No, I have 43 active boards in Trello at the moment, and I use it all the time. I use it both for my personal life, for the business of Nerds Domain, and then for the the business that I work at. I introduced them to Trello, and now it's anytime there's a question about where it's at, if it's from Matt, it's on Trello, because I put everything that I do on there. Because it's, oh, well, we need the spreadsheet sent to you in Trello, guys. I'm already past that. Like, let's move on. So it's really good I feel like it's really good for sharing a lot of stuff between people. I use it for a ton of organizational stuff. Any convention we go to, I make a board and I start listing stuff, and then that's how I get it done and make sure we go anywhere. If we go on vacation, or if we just go somewhere, I put all my pack lists on there. I am a Trello fiend. I currently have something like 16 months left on my free gold membership because I've invited so many people to use Trello. I think it's a really good tool for organization. If you're an organization-minded person, it has the potential to do everything you want it to do.
If you're not an organized person, it helps
like
you
Jesse.
get there, too. Cause
Yeah.
I was reluctant because I had to sign up for another thing.
Oh my! Everybody was reluctant. Why don't you trust me? No, go ahead.
I use it to keep track of my finances and my bills.
Oh,
and whatnot.
nice.
That's not a bad idea. I hadn't thought about doing it that way, but yeah, that's I do it for every podcast we have. I have a checklist. I have pre-production, during, post-production, editing. I do step-by-step on everything we do there so that I make sure as I get it done, like, oh, did I post to Twitter and Facebook on this? Nope. Okay, well, I need to do that. Now I can check that off, and I can see it as it goes. I use it for so much stuff. It's a little ridiculous. So, but I really, really, really like Trello. I can't say enough good things about it.
Is there anything we didn't touch on?
Oh, geez, you can assign members. So once you build a board, you can build it within an organization. So if I have the Nerds Domain organization and I invite Shirley, Johnny, and Jesse to it, they can either see all the boards in it or see the boards I can let them see in it. So you can make them both private and offered to the organization. You can also make them public. So, for instance, any updates that Trello does to Trello is on a Trello board that they keep track of, and it's a public board that you can go and subscribe to. So that's kind of interesting and cool that they use their own board in their business. So once you have somebody on a board, you can assign them as a member so that they know it's something they either need to do or need to be on top of. You can do voting. Johnny's got his some modules up or some games up that he thinks he might want to run at a convention, and we're supposed to be voting on it. Just a reminder, Jesse and Shirley, we're supposed to be voting on those. But that gives Johnny an idea of, hey, this is what we think, and I voted, and I think that at least gave him my opinion real quick. But it also let me go into each game and say, hey, here are my thoughts. Like Johnny wanted to do a game called, what is it, Mobile Suit Zero?
Yes.
And it involves Lego, and I was like, I would never take my Legos to a con. That sounds terrible for me. But, that might be something you can do. So there's a lot of options to do stuff like that. You can comment, you can make lists, or you can make checklists, you can put in a description. You can actually, from your email in cards onto boards. You just have to set that up ahead of time. And I can just email like Johnny and Johnny's board and say, Johnny, please do this. And it automatically tells him in the email and then automatically puts a card on the board where I tell it to. So that's kind of awesome. There's so much really good stuff.
It's free.
And honestly, it is, well, it has a free option, and the free option is very, very robust. The paid option is like $5 a month, and you get a couple of things that you don't get normally. But you can get what they call Trello Gold for free anyway by inviting new members. And then there is a business version that gives you a lot more control over what can happen on the boards you have within your organization.
Oh, good. So you can't have like a disgruntled person just like destroy your board.
Absolutely. And even if at this point somebody just destroyed our boards, like Jesse, you go disgruntled on me, and just tried to destroy the board, everything archives, it doesn't delete.
Oh,
so you can just unarchive it. So, because I've accidentally put comments and stuff and been like, ooh, where did I put that comment? And I can see that it tracks all that. Trello is so robust. I can't express enough how much. You should just check it out. And if you want a link, I should find a way to put that up on our website. But yeah, go to Trello.com and it's all there. It's available on every mobile device except, I want to say, Amazon Kindle. Like, it's iOS, Windows 8, and Android available. Just I don't know if it's on Kindle or not. Do you remember if it was on Kindle, Trello? I don't think
I haven't checked.
Okay, it might be, but they've worked hard on making it available everywhere.
And the thing is, if it isn't, like, I just go through my web app.
Yeah, and it is a website too, which is where you get a lot of more robust actions, but it's very, very mobile friendly. So my other app is Space Hulk, which is a fan.
What?
Yeah.
I've been
Oh
to
yeah.
get that. I haven't got that yet. Yeah.
Hold on, what is the one you play in the bathroom all the time?
We're not going to talk. I said this is best apps of the year. Those are not necessarily good apps. So Space Hulk is a board game, miniature game put out by Games Workshop. The game itself runs about $100 to $115 for unpainted, unput together miniatures. Or I can pay, I want to say it was $9.99 for the app. So I paid $9.99 for the app. The game is difficult. It's a turn-based movement and attack app or game. If you've ever played Heroes Quest or Warhammer Quest, it's very much like that. You control these Space Marines in their Terminator armor, going through these Space Hulks, which are ships that have gone through what they call the warp, so they've been twisted, and they've got these aliens called what are those called, Jesse?
Genotypes or gene stealers?
But what's the army?
Oh, Tyranids.
They have Tyranids, which are very alien from aliens, like
Starship Troopers, a lot like.
Yeah, kind of like that too. So they're these unthinking aliens, and all they want to do is destroy you, and you have to go through each level and complete specific missions. It's really solid. There's a lot to play. It's hard. There's some levels I can't get past, which is why I kind of quit playing it. But Warhammer games are difficult to begin with. You get one bad roll and you just lost the guy you need. And in this game, you're using, at max, I've used 8 guys at any one time. So you lose 2 of those guys and you're down a quarter of your force, and that's rough. And the Gene Stealers just keep coming and just keep coming and just keep coming. It does have a multiplayer option. I haven't played with it yet because it's pass and play, but it's a really solid game. I really, really like it. I've wanted to play Space Hulk for a while. I keep seeing people play it at conventions, and I've never had the time to sit down and play it. And this makes me seriously consider spending $115 on a game, not just because the miniatures look awesome, because they do, but because I could have a really cool game with some modules, and they just re-released it after it being out of print for a while. So.
Oh, they did. Okay, I was wondering why it was so cheap.
The board. Yeah, they just re-released the board game. I want to say 2 or 3 months ago. So you can pick that up at most of your game stores. Actually, Jesse, I bet you that Comic Cave has a copy.
Wouldn't surprise me. About the app.
Mm-hmm.
How comparable is it to the Warhammer Quest app, since you played that also?
Feels almost exactly the same, except that you're clearly in space with Terminator armor.
Cool. So you get equipment and stuff also in that one, or?
You don't get equipment. You're stuck with your equipment. You don't get to choose your squad either. You're given a squad, given a job, and you go do it.
Okay.
So, I guess that is a little different. You don't get equipment. You don't level up. And you don't get to choose a lot. I guess so. It feels a lot like it, but there's some stuff that's different.
Gameplay's the same.
Yeah, with Warhammer Quest, you get to choose a lot of different options. With Space Hulk, it's literally, here's your mission. Here are the people you're going to complete it with. Decide how you deploy them. Now that you've deployed them, best of luck. So it's fun. It took a little bit to get used to what some of the abilities did and how to best use them, but that's how a game should work. So
yeah.
Did we hit all the apps? No, Jesse, you have apps.
Apps. Well, I just recently talked about in the best of ever episode we did, but one of the best of apps I've found so far is Spotify. And I know it's been out for a while, but it has been the best thing I could come across since I've gotten unlimited data. It's well worth the money.
Oh, yeah. Did you find books on there?
I'm still just listening to music.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
The thing is, I didn't even know, that's I'm going to go find books. And I'm like, find books on Spotify? That's not for books. It's for music.
Yeah,
and I didn't even know that you could find books on there. So
Yeah, I have the hard time of when I listen to people talk, I want it to be a podcast because I don't have a long time to listen to my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah,
it's a great
I think what I'm gonna go try to do is find some TED Talk authors on there that I like. See if they have any, because we found.
You know, there's a TED Talks podcast, right?
Yeah, I have the TED Talks app.
Podcast. So there's just a podcast. Just a podcast.
I know.
It's a good one too.
Right.
Yeah, it really is.
I wouldn't say
really
it was the best of the year, but
What do you like so much about it?
about
Spotify.
Spotify.
Yeah.
I'm listening to music. I've been using Pandora for a while, and it's a hodgepodge of just randomness,
Yeah.
and you can kind of negate a little bit of it. But I never paid for it, and when I paid for one, I'm glad I picked Spotify instead of Pandora.
I find Pandora is great for finding new artists.
Yeah.
If you're like, I like this band, tell me something else I might like, and then you find them, and you're like, oh, I can go look them up on Spotify now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and then you can playlist.
I also like the fact on Spotify that if I kick it on the radio and there's a song that I like, I just hit a button and it's saved to my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So cool.
Right on.
The other app, I found it this month, which I might still be in the honeymoon phase of it, so I think it's a great app, but it's called Chain Chronicle. And it's a pay-to-play RPG. It's kind of Final Fantasy story style gameplay. It's cross-platform on Android, Windows, iOS. It saves through Facebook, so your game saves through each of them. And it has just the right feel of randomness. You get a certain number of coins for completing quests. You turn in the coins for a chance at a follower to join your army. And the chances is on how rare the follower is going to be and how good he's going to be. And the pay-to-play aspect of it is you can buy the coins. But I haven't felt the need to buy coins. It's been working well, and to be honest, I kind of feel that if I bought the coins, it'd be cheating.
Right on.
The storylines...
You're actually buying followers or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. Even when you get it through the game, you're still just getting followers. But you can choose between which ones you want in your unit. It's kind of a strategy role-playing game where you move across the map. And it's absolutely free. Like I said, it is a blast.
Well, right on. Okay. We'll go ahead and move into movies, and I'll start and talk about the two best movies that I didn't. These aren't the two best. These are the two best that I didn't assume would be on other people's lists. So, starting off the year was the Lego Movie, which was fantastic, and I love it, and I really am happy that it came out and that the toy of my childhood was so well respected and given such a good story and done so well. I really like the Lego Movie. I really, really, really like it and everything about it.
I went into that one kicking and screaming because I wasn't a big Lego fan as a kid. I was a Lincoln Log player personally, but
Lincoln Logs are like, oh, do you like your car? No, I prefer my horse and buggy.
Okay, so they might have better off for a while, but no, it's still a great movie. I
Oh, yeah.
really loved it. I look forward to the sequel if they don't screw it up.
Yeah, and well, it's being done with the same group, and I really feel like if they stick to the same feeling, then they'll be good. It has a great couple of, or it has a good, what do you call that, story arc, and then the ending is fantastic. The last 30 seconds are just perfect for everything you'd want in a movie and prepping for a sequel. It did everything tropey in prepping for that sequel, but it was still fun and funny when they did it. So I'm really happy with the Lego Movie, and that's one of the few movies I actually purchased this year, and I'm completely happy with that. So my other one was X-Men: Days of Future Past. Oh man, really?
I just watched it yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So I
well,
don't know if it counts, but
yeah, no, I really, really liked it. Although I did miss the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, which didn't really lose anything for me.
I couldn't get past the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie.
Really?
I didn't know any
the
of the
first 5 or
superheroes.
10 minutes are just a monologue and a fight scene.
It's a blur of people I didn't care about doing things I didn't care about.
Oh, you're not an X-Men fan, are you?
No.
Oh.
It was not the X-Men that I know from other movies, so I kind of didn't know what was going
Yeah,
on.
well, but it'll be the
I
X-Men
thought
in the
that's
next
why
movie.
It was interesting.
Yeah. Other than a couple of small issues I had, like, I don't know, Shadowcat's sudden ability to make people's minds travel back in time, that one bothered me quite a bit.
Well, they had to get Hugh Jackman on the screen as much as possible.
I agree. I just it was bothersome. That was one of the things that I went, really? All right.
Well, the fact that they didn't even try to hand wave explain it bothered me a lot. But
yeah,
you know.
Well, I don't know, because if they would have hand waved and explained it, I think I might have been even more irritated if they didn't do it right.
Go ahead, Shirley.
I was just saying, you guys are talking about this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? For me, as a layman, like, I'm not into the comics. I just thought that was one of her powers. Like, that's something she
maybe
could
that's
do.
why they didn't hand wave explain it. Was for the masses that don't know the X-Men, and that's who they were selling the movie
just like,
to. And that's
that's cool. She's got a cool power.
But the problem, if you're not familiar with the issue, Days of Future Past, it was originally Shadowcat who was sent back in time to stop things from happening. So they were just, I don't know, to me they were using they were like, well, these are the characters that have to appear, and Ellen Page is on the payroll. She's, so we might as well use her. But if we're going to put an X-Men movie together, and Hugh Jackman isn't the primary guy on the screen, Hollywood rules say we're wasting our money and our time. But that kind of, I wish they had said something about it. Like they show her making people phase through walls, which is her standard ability, but they don't explain how that helps her time travel your mind.
Yeah.
So
I think
I was bothered by that.
The things that I really do like about it is that it took the original X-Men storylines that I liked, but X-Men 1 and 2 I was really really happy with. Last Stand was kind of rough.
Yeah,
but it took the characters and the development and the Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen actors as the characters and did a really fantastic job of bringing them back while still going with Michael Fassbender and the other guy whose name is escaping me in the past, and worked it into another story and did a really good job. I really think they did a really good job of doing a time travel story that didn't just leave us all going, well, that was dumb. There was comedy, there was a lot of action. It was a solid movie, other than the one aspect I mentioned. It had my favorite X-Men of all time in it, Blink, because she's, awesome.
Yeah.
It had some new characters in it, which I think is great. And then the end scene, or the after scene, was enough to get me excited for the next one. So
I wasn't super thrilled with that scene. I thought there would be more, but I'm excited for the concepts that the end scene introduced, but it wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm also a diehard Age of Apocalypse fan.
Yeah, but like the way they set it up, it's not necessarily the Age of Apocalypse you knew, because they sort of integrated the Xavier Magneto storyline from Age of Apocalypse. Unless he's going to time travel again, that's just weird. But I was a little bothered by the two characters that came back at the end of the movie that were dead.
Yeah,
only because there was no, I want to know. Basically, Wolverine goes back in time and he changes things so that the future is better, which is great, and I love that. And then they two characters walk into the screen, and I want to know why they're there. What did he change that made that work out differently? And they don't explain it. And I was like, no, the movie's not over. We need another half hour, of Xavier
we need a whole other movie
talking about what was different. And and they didn't do that, and I was so frustrated, but I loved the movie, so it was great.
Yeah. Shirley, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna move us along because we're running a little long tonight.
On that forever.
Yeah, Shirley, what are your two movies?
we saw so much this year. I don't know if I have like single movies that were the greatest.
You had one job.
Huh?
You had one job.
I think like I loved all the Marvel movies.
Which were?
Okay.
Only two, weren't there?
Thor didn't come out this year.
Darkness?
Dark World was 2013.
Yep.
God, let's see. I'm way behind.
You're talking Captain America 2.
Captain America Winter Soldier.
And
Avengers.
No.
Or was it? No, it was Tony Stark. Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy.
There you go. Good Lord. I got you a Dancing Groot, and you couldn't even remember which movie. Yeah, it's 2 movies this year.
Why do I think like...
Well, there was also Spider-Man and X-Men, so technically 4 Marvel movies, 2 from Marvel Studios.
Well, hey, you know what? I watched Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it was not nearly as terrible as I thought it was going to be.
Exactly. Like, I mean, you guys were ranting and raving about that crane scene at the end of the last one, and I'm just like...
So terrible.
Okay, it was
it's the worst thing ever.
But this one was so much better, and I love... You know, I haven't ever read any of Amazing Spider-Man, so I don't know... it's Peter Parker, right?
Yes.
I don't know Peter Parker's personality on the books, but I think the new actor, I don't know what his name is.
Andrew Garfield.
I think like I liked him. I liked him better than the previous 2 people.
Tobey Maguire? No, he's
Tobey Maguire.
He's the best Spider-Man.
I like his wit and the witticisms and just how he handled situations. It made it more personable. He made it more personable.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 hit some good strokes. It did some things well, but it suffered from an extra villain and between comic book and movie, an inconsistent protagonist. It's just not the nerdy Peter Parker we grew up with. Those are like 2 big problems. They changed the background of Peter Parker's parents, and I'm okay with that because that doesn't bother me as much. They did some spoilers here. They did the death scene of Gwen Stacy pretty well. It wasn't quite exactly out of the books, but it still had all the right feels. It was the anger of Green Goblin and trying to destroy Spider-Man emotionally. The Green Goblin choice of Harry over Norman was okay, I guess. But I don't know. I can see where they're going with the Sinister Six movie, and I think that has potential, but it wasn't terrible.
What do you think about the proposed reboot that they're talking about now?
It's not a reboot. It's not a reboot. You mean taking Spider-Man and putting him in the next Captain America movie?
Yeah, and having that be the new Spider-Man and not be Garfield.
It's my understanding that they're not going to...
You're going to do a third person?
So, yes. The Civil War storyline requires Spider-Man to get the entire impact of the storyline. Spider-Man doesn't exist in the Avengers universe currently. To make him exist, Marvel wants him back because they've licensed him out. But they don't want Andrew Garfield because that character does not fit what they want. The character that Andrew Garfield currently plays as Spider-Man. I'm completely behind all of that. If they reboot off of that, I'm okay with that too. Even if, Sony that owns the rights, or that licensed the rights right now, I'm okay if Sony runs with those movies and they're still, quote-unquote, in the Marvel Universe with Avengers. But if they reboot now, it's just going to be frustrating because they just freaking rebooted.
Yeah.
I have issues with that idea. I'm fine with Marvel introducing their version of Spider-Man, but Sony needs to stick to their guns and use the Andrew Garfield version they've written.
And it takes a quick explanation that Spider-Man exists in more than one universe. It's just a different character. This is the 617 universe. That's the 618 universe. Let's move on.
You know the best way to do that?
Like
Donald Glover as Spider-Man.
Donald.
That'd be fine with me.
He's the guy from Community. He's the black guy that played Troy. He's a little short. I know that sounds terrible.
Miles Morales. that it's not Peter Parker, it's Miles.
Well, I guess I could accept it. I'm just thinking, like, if it were a black Peter Parker, I would. He's too short for that. He's too, like, short and stocky. But if he's gonna be Miles Morales or, I don't know, John I'm a normal guy. It could be anything else. I would be a little more okay with it as long as the same same strokes are hit on the character.
All they need is Spider-Man. They don't need Peter Parker.
They do need Peter Parker for the Civil War storyline.
It could be any Spider-Man, though.
I get what you're saying. Yes, they need Spider-Man and his alternate identity. I guess that doesn't happen.
The problem I have with that, the real problem I have with that idea, though, is that the thing that made Spider-Man's involvement in the Civil War storyline so impactful is you had the history of Peter Parker trying to keep his identity secret, and without a Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, somebody who has been working to keep his identity secret, there's the big reveal doesn't have any impact. So
I don't understand how Civil War is going to work at all in the way they got Marvel, because
right now I completely agree that other than they just need to have Iron Man side with the government, the shadowy head honchos of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Captain America fight against them.
Which doesn't make sense for the Tony Stark we've had for the last 4 movies.
Yeah.
Except for his shaken up.
That's true. I guess that's true. Okay.
Battle-weary persona in the third Iron Man movie, which there needs to be another transition. But,
which it could happen even on screen in Captain America Civil War. Like, he could do that in 15 minutes, and I would still... or at the end of Avengers. I guess that's true, too. I get what you're saying about Spider-Man needing a little more development, but honestly, Joss Whedon's writing hasn't terribly failed me so far.
Right.
And if he's going to touch it, I think it has a lot more potential of succeeding in a shorter time frame.
Well, there was a rumor going around that the Black Panther movie, which, if I recall correctly, Black Panther is supposed to come out before the next Avengers film. Before the Civil War film.
That's possible.
So the rumor going around was that they were going to introduce Black Panther, and he was going to be in his own standalone movie, and then cameo in a couple others, and then be the Spider-Man character in Civil War. Avengers 3 Civil War or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That was the rumor, and I'm all on board with that. Going that route because of the lack of Spider-Man. But if Sony is willing to relinquish their complete control over Spider-Man in the film right now, it's just I don't want them to squeeze it in. I want them to make it work naturally. And I'm afraid they're going to try to just hammer it in there at the last minute, and it's not going to have the impact that it needs to make a good story.
Fair enough. Well, let's move on. Shirley, I'm sorry, you had lots to say about these 2 movies, right?
No, I mean, you guys obviously know the backstories of all the comics and everything. So, but what I was going to say is Johnny brought up a good point earlier, and I don't remember what it is, but I remember what I thought. And I thought, like, reboot of characters. Like, there's so many different reboots. Like, we just watched the new Jack Ryan movie.
Yeah.
Which I really liked, and I can't remember the name of it.
Shadow Recruit. Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit.
And then right after that, we watched Sum of All Fears, and I'm like, if they would just make a friggin' consistent storyline and follow what's really there, then people wouldn't get confused.
And it works for the James Bond franchise,
Well, except their storytelling is not necessarily consistent from step to step.
It's not as tight.
It's not as what?
Tight.
Oh, right. And because
Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Sorry, what?
I think
you bled out. You said tight, and we didn't hear anything after that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would totally accept that the Sean Connery James Bond movies were one arc and all interconnected in some way, and then Daniel Craig comes in and he does his own arc, and those are interconnected, and the connection to the Sean Connery arc is tenuous at best. I'm fine with that idea. I would just like them. I don't need to see Spider-Man and Batman's parents getting killed or whatever.
Another-
Their parental figures
4,000
getting
times.
killed every
Yeah.
5 years. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I am so glad the next Batman's starting in Superman, so we don't have to get an origin story.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we'll still get one. We'll still get one.
Probably.
Oh, I'm sure there will be a flashback to a dark alley and a gunshot and some pearls falling on the ground or something like that. But
The problem is that Hollywood expects us to be stupid and not remember history,
yeah,
and it's just and I don't know.
But you're
Well-
also getting, I can understand a little bit of it because you're also getting all those new people that don't know the story. They don't read the comics, so they don't know the Batman.
Have them spend an hour and a half and watch the first Batman movie.
Yeah, but some people aren't going to do that. Like,
Yeah, except that one's bad
No,
because
it was great. Best Joker ever.
Well, but except that the Joker didn't kill his parents unless you watch that movie.
Well, true.
So it's still, even then,
killed
it's
his
an
parents?
inconsistent storyline.
Some guy.
Joe Chill.
Yeah, that's it.
Just some bank robber guy or some robber guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't a supervillain. He was just a robber.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I've been lied to all these years.
Yeah. So let's move on. Jesse, what are your films?
Well, one of them's a TV show. It's been on for a while, but I just found it this year, and then we DVR'd the entire series. But it's called Drunk History. It's on the Comedy Channel, and I
I've heard about that.
absolutely love it. You take a guy who knows history, you get him drunk, and you have him try to describe a certain time in history. And then you hire these really famous actors to enact what this drunk guy is saying half correctly. And it's absolutely hilarious. And educational.
Okay.
It is. I have to agree with Jesse that that's a good choice. It's fun. Some of the
Is
stories,
it available streaming somewhere?
there is at least a season or half a season on Netflix.
Is there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're real short seasons. So it's probably the full season. There's only like 6 or 7 episodes a season.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go then. Now I will say that some of the drunks are annoying drunk.
Yeah.
Some of the episodes are not as good, but I have a feeling that the ones I've watched, those were early episodes, and they
Yeah.
were still trying to figure out their structure.
You don't want to get too
but
drunk.
yeah, some of them do get too drunk, and but it is funny to see the actors playing out the misinterpreted history, and you can tell that they're like, this isn't right, like this, this isn't what's supposed to happen, or this isn't how it happened. But they're just going with it, so it's funny. But yeah, you get skits and scenes intermingled with the drunk guy talking. It's good stuff.
Yeah, actually, Drunk History is not available on Netflix.
It's not. Maybe it was Hulu that I watched it on then.
That might be.
If you turn it on Comedy Central, they air it like every day.
We don't do
past-
cable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you're not, if you
Comedy
don't, if you
Central
have
just
cable,
runs the
there's
same shows.
I know I watched a couple episodes. It may have been taken off, or it may have been Hulu
Fair
Plus
enough.
that I watched it on. So I apologize. It was
Oh,
streaming.
it's on Hulu Plus.
There you go. Yeah. So
Jesse.
The other movie I watched. I've been waiting 20 years for this sequel. It's called Dumb and Dumber 2. And it was well worth the wait. It is easily the best movie I've watched this year. And there's been a lot of good movies this year. But it absolutely floored me. I mean,
Of all the movies I thought would be on lists, I did not think that would be on there.
I didn't
I
either.
totally forgot that was coming out this year.
I enjoyed the first one, but this is it is so much better. They have a long joke, which is something I never would expect from them. It's got a better plot than the first one. It makes more sense. They explained the 20-year gap very well.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's hilarious.
Okay.
And
All right. I'll trust your word on this that it was good.
It's well worth it. You need to watch it. Everybody needs to watch it.
Right on. John, what about you? Your 2 movies.
Well, we already talked about one, so I won't rehash X-Men: Days of Future Past. And we sort of touched on the other one, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Cool.
And,
Wow.
And again, we'll briefly talk about it. When I first watched Guardians of the Galaxy, I had issues with it. I was distracted by two children at the drive-in theater, so I can say the worst thing I experienced in 2014 was trying to watch highly anticipated movies at the drive-in with my two children. It just doesn't work. I'm never going to do it again. But Guardians of the Galaxy, I had issues with, like, hey, we're gonna link together all of our individual fighter ships to make a net to stop this big ship from touching down. Rather than launching our own giant ship to fight it, we're gonna use all these individuals, and that's dumb.
What if they didn't have a giant ship?
Then they're dumb.
What if their giant ship was at the other end of the galaxy and they didn't know the ship was coming?
They're dumb because it was months in planning that Ronan was going to destroy this planet. And the Nova Squad, the intergalactic peacekeeping force that has a prison asteroid planet thing, should have a ship that could at least slow down Ronan's ship and not have a bunch of individual pilots. And
they took their one advantage, which was having a bunch of little guys, and made it into one disadvantage.
Exactly. It was just not good. And then the Nova Corps. I guess the Nova Corps was the main problem with this movie. They're running a prison, and they bring in a bunch of guys. Their enemy is trapped in this little room, and they shoot one rocket at a time at 3 different windows rather than launching the 6 rockets they have at one window.
No, I'm with you on that one.
Then when the gravity was shut off, their rocket launchers apparently no longer worked. That's again. So because I had children bugging me, I wasn't able to get immersed in the movie, and little things like that kind of jumped out at me and made my first viewing of Guardians of the Galaxy a bad one. I also missed the group sacrifice and the dance-off at the end of the movie.
Oh, wow. So you missed everything.
I did. So when I got it on Blu-ray for Christmas, I was able to sit down with my nice new surround sound system that I also got this year and really enjoy the movie with the way it was intended. And now
without children.
Yeah, the children were in bed, the surround sound was on, the wife was asleep, and I just watched the movie the way it was meant to be seen, and I loved it. I still saw the little glaring holes because I saw them the first time. I didn't catch any new ones, but I got myself immersed, and I enjoyed the crap out of that movie. And I cannot wait for the next ones to come out.
What were you going to say, Shirley?
Don't know.
Edit that out.
Oh, something about gravity, propulsion and gravity in outer space and something, but it doesn't matter now.
All right, edit all that out, Matt.
Yeah, you're wondering if the rocket launchers would have worked properly. They would have gone backwards, but the rocket still would have done its job.
It actually probably would have spun.
Yeah, but wouldn't it have slowed it down immensely?
Nope. Gravity has nothing to do with that.
It might have killed the guy shooting the rocket.
Well, because the guy shooting the rocket would have not been squarely
propelled
down. He would have been propelled backwards. But the rocket still would have gone forward. It still would have exploded. But that doesn't negate the point that they shot. They go, fire 1, wait, fire 2, wait, fire 3. Oh, the gravity's shut off. The last 3 guys can't fire. They should have said, all fire.
Yeah. Also, those weren't the Nova Corps. Those were just terrible prison guards. They make a point of that.
Those were the Nova Corps. They were corrupt and horrible people, but they were still Nova Corps people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the real police force and prison guards.
Yeah.
Okay. So
moving on.
That will. Did you have another movie, John, or were those your two?
Days of Future Past and Guardians of the Galaxy.
So that'll kind of wrap us up for tonight. A couple of things we did start this year that are exciting. Our Patreon page, which you can go to at patreon.com/nerdsdomain. That's a crowdfunding site where you can go and support us and give us value for the value we give you. So essentially, if you want to support us monetarily, That's where you go to do that. You can do it for as little as a penny or as much as $1,000 a month. If you wanted to give us $1,000 a month, I would fly Johnny out to kiss you. I guarantee it.
We would invite you over and take you out to dinner.
Johnny, if I pay you like $600, you'd fly out and kiss some dude on the cheek, right?
Yeah.
Cheek, yes, definitely.
So you can check that out. You can also sign up for our newsletter. That'll be on the right-hand side of our website. It'll say newsletter sign up, and that's where we keep you up to date on what's going on with us. A couple of things to look forward to in 2015, now that it's already 2015. You're about a week and a half in now. We have Gaming with Scott, a new podcast from our friend Scott Troiano. He will be joining the Nerds Domain Network. They're going to be playing a Marvel superheroes game where they're going through a storyline. It's the old what he calls face rip system. Not quite sure exactly what that means other than it's the stats you use. But it's going to be a good story. I've already heard that there's some questionable morals that are being explored as superheroes, so that's something to look forward to. We have the Go Fund This podcast that will be rip-roaring through the new year. And then we have a couple other podcasts that we're looking forward to starting up, so you should keep an eye out for those as well. As always, you can go over to /loot and buy our shirts. You can also keep your eyes out on our Facebook and Twitter because we will be doing another shirt come sometime soon of our brand new logo that you can find on our Facebook and Twitter pages. That will be on a shirt. John, you designed that with a little bit of input from me, and I think it looks fantastic. I think we're all happy with that
amazing.
logo.
I love it.
Yeah. So we're going to take that and we're going to put that on a shirt. That'll be on Teespring. So that's another crowdfunding thing where you put shirts up and try and get them out as a fundraiser. So check that out as well. But keep in touch with us and find us on Facebook and Twitter, and we will talk to you guys real soon.
This has been a production of the Omega Nerds Network, the network where it's on.